Okay, we're live. We are waiting for Donald Trump's live address to the nation. He has been touting a major announcement for a while at this point, and initially scheduled for 3 p.m. Eastern today, then rescheduled for 4 p.m. Eastern, and we're about a half hour from that, and we'll be talking about what might we expect from this address? I do want to hear from people in the audience. We are going to maybe open up the phone lines after the address, depending on how long it is. A lot going on and a lot to discuss. So, welcome to everybody. I'm here. It's a weekend. I'm in the studio. I have my David Pakman Show coffee in my David Pakman Show coffee mug, which I never do any product placement of our own stuff, and I really should. Delicious, absolutely delicious. Used a Chemex to make it. It's all available on our website, davidpakman.com/gear. And I'll be sipping it throughout. The more Trump lies, the more caffeinated I think I'm going to be today. Okay, so let's start with what to expect. By the way, one cool thing. Super Chat is on, and I've set up a shot here where I can actually put the Super Chats on screen as they come in. This is the last, I guess we would call, event that would be displayed in the Super Chat window, which was Pamela Berger becoming a David Pakman Show YouTube member last night. So anyway, as Super Chats come in, I'll be able to pop them up on the screen there, which is very cool. Let's talk about what we are to expect today. A CNN article outlining what it is that we might be seeing today. President Donald Trump expected to propose extending protections for DACA recipients and individuals with temporary protected status in exchange for border wall funding in his remarks Saturday afternoon. This is based on a senior administration official and a source familiar with the matter who confirmed this to CNN. It will be at 4 p.m., as I mentioned. So, to reset, the context here is that Donald Trump wants to build a wall with Mexico. He said Mexico would pay for it. Of course, they were never going to pay for it. Now we know that. Now he wants you to pay for it. And he said he would shut down government if he doesn't get the money from taxpayers through our elected officials to pay for it. He didn't get it, and he shut it down. That's where we are now. We're now close to entering the fifth week of the shutdown. 800,000 government employees haven't been paid, millions of contractors impacted, airport safety impacted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So where we now find ourselves is that Donald Trump is increasingly desperate. He's desperate to get something that he could call a victory of sorts on the record. And that is why now we are hearing here is a compromise that Donald Trump may propose at the top of the hour, which would include, in exchange for getting that 5.7 billion for the wall, giving some protections to DACA recipients. Now, there's two sort of main lines of thought that I have here that I would want to sort of throw out there. Let's start with the one that suggests Democrats should just go with it. Okay, let's start with that one, and then we'll talk it through and see if it makes any sense to us. If you are of the mindset that the wall isn't really going to be built, because as I've mentioned before, 5.7 billion would cover just a tiny fraction of it. It would take a very long time to even really get started. That even if you give Trump the money on paper, he's not going to be able to actually do much before he's no longer president, even if he's president for 6 more years with just 5.7 billion. A reasonable position might be if you can get stuff from Trump he wouldn't otherwise do, like concessions on DACA, for 5.7 billion that quite frankly he's not going to be able to do much with. Maybe you do it and then everybody sort of quote wins, in the sense that if you don't want the wall, 5.7 billion for it isn't really going to get you much of a wall. If you do want some concessions on DACA, you get them from Trump. That is one position. Okay. The reason that I'm skeptical of the idea that Democrats should just take what they can get because ultimately Trump might get his money anyway without any concessions is that what you have to understand on DACA is that this is not saying DACA recipients get a path to citizenship. Okay. I would actually be much more willing to negotiate if I was on the Democratic side of the table. If you were saying, well, 5.7 billion for the wall, 5.7, which won't build much, and can just be entire project can be stopped by the next president anyway. 5.7 billion in exchange for an actual path to citizenship for DACA recipients and a bunch of other stuff. Maybe we actually have something to talk about. But what you have to remember is it's political suicide for Republicans to start deporting DACA recipients. There are a lot of things that Donald Trump can do and he would get away with very little punishment or political consequence. But for Republicans and Trump to start deporting DACA recipients, remember, who came to the United States when they were underage, many still are not adults because their parents came to the United States. That would be a major political blunder. So it's not that the choice is either you do this deal or Trump will start deporting DACA recipients. It's very different than that. It's if you don't do this deal, Trump's not going to deport DACA recipients. He might threaten to. He might try to get other things in exchange for not deporting them, but they're not going to deport DACA recipients because even Republicans, Marco Rubio, many Republicans understand that's political suicide. The other point is that's not even what's being offered here. This is, if we, based on what we're being told, right, based on the CNN article about what's being offered here or what is expected to be offered here, we're talking about an extension for that status, that the protected status that DACA recipients have. So when you consider that we're not talking about a path to citizenship and that in either case, Trump's not going to start deporting DACA recipients, Republicans aren't going to start deporting DACA recipients, it becomes much more questionable to me whether this is a deal that Democrats should be making. We're predicting, right? Because we haven't yet actually seen what it is Donald Trump is going to propose. The CNN article we're looking at also adds the compromise proposal would allow immigrants covered by TPS, some of whose protections Trump has rescinded, to remain in the country. The senior administration official told CNN that this proposal remains fluid and could change. Democrats were not consulted on this and have rejected similar overtures in the past. It's clearly a Republican and Republican negotiation, a Democratic congressional aide said. What other interesting information do we have here? Source familiar with the discussion says that Trump tasked Jared Kushner and Mick Mulvaney and Mike Pence to try to craft something here. Not exactly people that we would consider the best negotiators, the most effective political operatives. Trump now has been consulted to get him on board. I've already read one op-ed piece which claims that Democrats are not going to go for this. But again, before you can actually reject or approve anything, you have to see what the proposal is. We are waiting for Donald Trump at the top of the hour. Just how far are we from that? About 22 minutes. So the plan for the live stream, I believe, is going to be, because we are really live right now, I will take super chat questions and comments until the top of the hour. And then we will go to the live speech from Donald Trump. And then if people want me to open up the phone lines after for reactions and all of that other stuff, then we will, if we get 10 new members at davidpakman.com/membership, I will open up the phone lines as soon as Trump's address is done. And we might actually have some time for a bunch of calls and for a lot of people to get in today, because we do have, the speech is expected to be relatively short. So 2 coupon codes are on the table today for memberships. You can use the coupon code This Is 2020. It'll chop 40% off of the cost of a membership. Membership is mostly how we're funded. It's how we have staff and a studio and do all of the stuff we do, and have now access to a great, quiet 24/7 studio so that I can do weekend streams and bring you live breaking news like what we're expecting now. So coupon code number 1 is This Is 2020. The other coupon code that's available is 2019, 2019. That will drop a $60 membership for the year. We're talking about for the year now, to just $20.19. So if we get just 10 members, it doesn't matter what you pay. It doesn't matter if it's monthly or yearly. If we get 10 new members during the stream, as soon as Donald Trump's address is over, I will open up the phone lines. I have the system ready to go. The number will be 617-830-4750. But that's if people actually want that, and if people don't, if we don't get any membership signups, then we don't have to worry about it. No big deal. We won't take calls. Let me get now to the super chats and see what's going on. I'm now able to display super chats on screen. The first is from Mr. Shigura with $1.99 saying, "Thank you for doing these streams. Truly, my pleasure." One of the great things about having now not only our own studio 24/7, which is not being shared with any other shows, but having a place that's actually quiet. Remember our old studio, not only when we were doing the show, but if we wanted to do something after hours or on the weekends, the amount of construction noise that we were dealing with was oppressive, to say the least. So we're not dealing with that anymore. Chris Dini has sent a $2 super chat. No question or comment. Very much appreciate it. Razamanaz has sent a 22 Norwegian kroner super chat. I believe that's what NOK is. I don't know how much that is in US dollars. I would guess it's 5 or 2. I'm not really sure. But I appreciate it either way. And 22, it sounds like a big number. Jason Prevo with a $5 super chat. Keep up your objective nature, David. Thank you. I think every time this comes up, I sometimes will get praise from people, and I might seem like a praise-obsessed narcissist sometimes, or maybe not. Maybe I don't. That would be great if I don't. But I don't just welcome any praise. Sometimes people will write in and say, "David, I love your show because it's not biased," and that is actually a red flag to me because our show is very politically biased in the sense that it is a left-wing progressive show. We're not a neutral show, but I try to be objective in all of the stories that we cover. Let's see what else we have here. Jenny Locke says, "Can you explain what's going on with BuzzFeed and Trump?" Yeah, so we're going to cover this on Monday. BuzzFeed News put out an article which claimed that Michael Cohen told Robert Mueller under oath, and that there are supporting documents, emails, other documents about this, that Donald Trump directed him to lie to Congress about the backstory of Trump Tower Moscow. If that's true, if that were true, that would be the first sort of direct under oath testimony and records that tell us Mueller has been told Trump committed the felony of directing witnesses to lie to Congress. That would be obstruction of justice. It's actually almost identical to what Richard Nixon ultimately resigned for in the 1970s, resigned over in the 1970s. It would be witness tampering, and it could signal the beginning of the end for Trump. However, about 24 hours after that BuzzFeed News story broke, Robert Mueller's spokesperson put out a statement. And you have to really, I don't have it in front of me. We could maybe get into this after Trump's address today. After 24 hours went by, Robert Mueller's spokesperson put out a statement saying that the characterization of what was in that report is not accurate and that it is not precise with regard to statements that have been made to the Office of the Special Counsel. So when that happened, the right immediately said, "It's fake news. The entire thing is fake. Nothing in the BuzzFeed News story is true." The problem is that also appears not to be an accurate assessment of the Mueller statement, because when you go back and look at the specificity and vocabulary in the Mueller statement, you see that they're not saying that the spirit of the story is untrue. They're saying that some of the specific characterizations of testimony are not accurate. So I don't really know the truth of the matter right now. The article in BuzzFeed News cited statements to the special counsel as only one type of evidence, purporting to demonstrate Donald Trump directed Cohen to lie to Congress. They claim to have emails. They claim to have other documents. So we'll see. It is remember, BuzzFeed News and BuzzFeed are not the same thing. Okay, so it is very difficult for me to imagine that BuzzFeed News would just invent that federal government sources told them this. There's no upside to that, and ultimately they would end up extraordinarily embarrassed. They are saying they stand by the story. So hopefully by our next show on Monday, I will have more information about that. Okay, let me take another sip of my David Pakman Show coffee here. Volt 9000 has sent a 10 Canadian dollar super chat asking, how should we deal with mischaracterization of progressive values? For example, liberals are violent, regressive, Antifa, SJW, anti-free speech, etc. Well, there's two I mean, when you say how should we deal with it, as individuals, we should make sure that we don't commit acts of violence, that we don't suppress speech, and all of that stuff. I mean, right? That's a sort of general thing. When you say we as maybe the progressive movement more broadly, you need to explain what really is going on and not allow those narratives to persist. So we've done long form pieces on our program about those mischaracterizations. We've talked about the free speech issue, the idea of violence being on the left. It's not. It's mostly on the political right. You can't relent when it comes to that. D. Barnu has sent a $2 Canadian super chat. Thank you very much. You know, it's risky for me to put up super chats like this because a super chat could come up where maybe someone tells me that I should debate somebody, and maybe I don't want that to appear on screen, if you know what I mean. And I wouldn't be able to control that. I'd have to like very erratically switch back to myself full screen or something like that. So there's a real risk to putting this up full screen. Dan Campbell with the $10 super chat. Should Democrats immediately begin impeachment hearings to educate, ready the public for impeachment pending Mueller report as was done in Watergate? I don't think so, Dan. No, because here's the problem. The circumstances right now are very different than during Watergate in the 1970s. The facts of what is going on with Trump are different, although some of the crimes may end up being the same ones. But you right now have a 24/7 media cycle, right-wing media cycle, an apparatus that defends the president no matter what all the time, where an advance or preparatory impeachment merely to educate the public is not a good idea. I think what is important is to remind the public at every opportunity when we say impeaching the president, we're not talking about the removal of the president. Impeachment is the process started by the House of Representatives. Ultimately, the Senate votes on whether to adjudicate the impeachment proceedings with a removal of the president. Impeaching the president means we believe that things have taken place that warrant the beginning of those proceedings. That is not, we are removing the president. There is still a process by which that would be evaluated. Okay, let me say thank you to a few new members and patrons, and we're looking for 10 new members and patrons in order to open up the phone lines after Trump's top of the hour speech. Brandon Tizzle, or Tizzle, is a new member at davidpakman.com. Drake Jensen is a new member at davidpakman.com. And Daniel Lapel is a new patron at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. Yeah, I will do either. So whether you do a membership or sign up on Patreon, we're looking for 10 new supporters during the stream. And then I will open up the phone lines at 617-830-4750. So either way counts. We're 30% of the way there with Drake, Daniel, and Brandon. So regular rates apply, or you can use the coupon code this is 2020 to save 40%, or you can use the coupon code 2019 to get a yearly membership for just $20.19. 30% of the way there, and we'll open. I look forward to opening up the phone lines and seeing what's on people's minds after this top of the hour speech from Trump. Roy Earl with a $10 super chat. David, isn't it funny that Trumpsters were against the Iran deal, but overlooked his business investment in Azerbaijani hotel that had connections with Revolutionary Guards? Keep up the work from Canada. Roy, that's way too nuanced to, I mean, what you're saying is just not even going to register with the average Trumpist. You're pointing out one of the probably hundreds, if not more, hypocrisies and double standards that exist within the sphere of what is Trump. But that's unfortunately going to be very, very lost on the average Trumpist. Razor X with a $2 super chat. I feel safe knowing you're watching this with us. Well, I can't bring you any safety, Razor, but I will bring you the best analysis that I can, and then hopefully we'll be able to, as people say, engage in a open discussion of ideas and let the best ideas kind of float to the top, like the fat on whole milk or something like that. I don't know. Mark Edayadi with a $4.99 super chat. If Democrats take the White House and Congress in the future, should we abolish the filibuster to pass progressive legislation? I've talked about that before. I'm open to that idea. But what you have to remember is, much like with court packing, any strategy that Democrats can successfully use when they're in control can backfire when they're not. And in the same way that, when the right says we should kind of reinterpret the Bill of Rights to eliminate birthright citizenship. They are opening up a dangerous can of worms by saying that the Bill of Rights is open to reinterpretation. Along the same lines, Democrats should be very, very careful about which tactics they use. And in fact, I spoke with, we did an interview with Dean Chemerinsky, sorry, not Chemerinsky, Chemerinsky from UC Berkeley School of Law this week. And he is the second most cited legal scholar, period. And he indicated that while he's not against packing the court, that you shouldn't even be talking about it when it's not something you can do, because it just gives the other side ideas. And that's sort of where I am on the elimination of the filibuster. 72 Janaj sends a 25 Norwegian kroner super chat, no question or comment. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mike 1013 1994 with a $20 super chat, today's high super chat. Are you familiar with Stoby Face? I have no idea what that is. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know what that is. I apologize. Stoby Face. I could have just said something horribly racist. For all I know, Stoby Face is something racist, or it's a kid's cartoon. I have no idea, and I couldn't tell you what it is. We are under 10 minutes from Donald Trump's top of the hour major announcement, and as it has been billed, I'm drinking David Pakman Show coffee. I should drink it more quickly because it's getting a little cold. But it's not, you know, that in-between temperature where it's supposed to be hot coffee, but it's not super hot, but it's way too warm for your brain to interpret it as iced coffee. I'm about probably 10 degrees above where we're going to get to that point. So I'll sip a little more frequently. We are taking super chats. I will open up the phone lines after the stream if we get 10 new supporters via membership or Patreon during the stream. And we have just been crushing it lately with 20, 30, 40 new supporters. We're at 3 so far. And actually, no, we are now at 4. Robin Louse, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Robin, I'm confident in, has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership, making Robin the 4th new member of the stream. So let's just get 6 more new members or patrons in the next 8 minutes or during the speech. And then right when we're done with Trump's nonsense, we will do analysis and then open up the phone lines. I think that's I think it's a delightful plan, and I look forward to being able to do that. Let's see what other super chats we have here. So Stoby Face, I don't know what that is. Let's see what's next here. Ellie Well with a $10 super chat. No deal for the wall if it's just an extension of DACA and TPS protection, Bridge Act. Democrats must insist on a real pathway to citizenship or no deal. I tend to agree with you, Elle, because as I pointed out, if you're talking about $5 billion for a tiny piece of the wall, some fraction of which will just replace existing border fence, in exchange for a bona fide path to citizenship for DACA recipients, we might actually have something to talk about, because that would be a massive, massive victory for the left. If what Trump is saying is he'll just extend protections for another period of time with no real path to citizenship, remember, it's mostly an empty threat that Trump and Republicans are going to start deporting DACA recipients because it would be politically extraordinarily destructive. So I tend to agree that I'm open to negotiation, but it has to be for something more than just a temporary extension of protections. Sean Smith with a $10 super chat. If McDonald's is made with a substantial amount of soy products, does that make Trump a soy boy? Yeah, maybe. I at this point, I don't even know what is going on at McDonald's. I haven't been to a McDonald's in something like, I want to say it's been almost 18 years or so since I've been to a McDonald's, other than the one near Washington Square Park in New York City, where once I did go in and use their bathroom when I lived in New York City. But otherwise, I don't know what's going on at McDonald's. BizWiz with a $4.99 super chat. Dems should offer him a roll of chicken wire. Come on, David. We all know this isn't a national emergency. It's about Trump's ego. Yeah, so that's one caveat. If Donald Trump pulls out the declaration of a national emergency during the speech that we're waiting for at the top of the hour, then indeed then it's not an in good faith negotiation at all. Then it almost becomes secondary what it is Trump's willing to offer, because it's a total misuse of the mechanism of national emergency. X sends a $5 super chat. What non-political YouTube channels and videos do you watch? Your show is excellent. Keep it up. I watch really weird stuff. I watch a bunch of chess streamers like Eric Rosen and John Bartholomew and Ben Feingold and a bunch of others. Hikaru Nakamura. I watch cooking channels like Eater has some awesome series on sushi, which are just really entertaining. I'll watch old Jacques Pepin cooking videos. I'm all over the place. I couldn't even, you would be shocked if you saw what I was watching. Let's take a look at how long we have. We got about 5 minutes until this thing gets underway. So plenty of time to get a few more super chats in there. Before I do, I want to say thanks to Jesus Lopez and David Ruiz, which gets us to 6 out of 10 new members, okay? I said at the top of the stream, if we get 10 new members or patrons during the stream, the phone lines will go wide open after Trump's speech at 617-830-4750. We are 60% of the way there. So 4 new subscribers or patrons on our website or on Patreon, and we will get to the phone lines after Trump's speech. The ace.ca, the theaace.ca, with a 25 Canadian dollar super chat, today's biggest super chat. You're a wonderful soul, even though I don't always agree with your positions. Are you going to be on the Steelman podcast anytime soon? I don't know what that is, and I've certainly not been invited at this point. But I'm always up for considering podcast appearances for sure. Dustin Brown, I know you're often critical of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but you have to be encouraged about the amount of usually unengaged people she's getting interested in politics. Absolutely. Also, Generation Z is even more progressive. I did see that report. Generation Z indeed is even more progressive. That's true. How long do we have? 3 minutes and 22 seconds. Let's see a couple other super chats. Miravis asked about the BuzzFeed story and Mueller's suspiciously specific denial, and how do the BuzzFeed editors standing by it figure into this? I did about 5 or 10 minutes on that a little earlier, so I don't want to go back on to that now, but we did touch on that today. Blackwave54 says, you're Pac-Man with the blicky of facts. He be shooting a DPS gang. Yes, I really couldn't say it any differently myself. Jordan Peterson arrives in the chat. Is Trump a cultural Marxist? I don't think so. Frenic32. Thoughts on Hassan Piker of TYT? Will you ever go on his stream? I like Hassan. I was on his stream not long ago. He's been carving out a space for himself alongside Twitch streamers like Destiny. Yeah, I like Hassan, and when we speak privately, nightly, he puts me to bed just like Hannity puts Trump to bed on the phone. No, I'm kidding. We do speak privately though. Once a month or something like that. Cher Mac, how do you deal with AOC fans who hate Bernie? I'm just ignoring that for right now. It's irrelevant to how I'm going to be covering the 2020 primary. Saddlebag, what's wrong with the YouTube membership? Why no can read stuff on your member site? Yeah, so Saddlebag, YouTube membership exists only on YouTube. If you want a membership on our website, just get a membership on our website. They're 2 different things, and Patreon is likewise a different thing. I want to say hello to Darren Navarez and Dylan Starr, who are subscribers 7 and 8 for the stream. Okay, so we are now just waiting on 2 more. 2 more YouTube, not YouTube. We're actually doing website members or patrons. And I'll open up the phone lines after the stream, okay? We've got about 1.5 minutes until Trump comes on, supposedly. I will remind you that this program, the reason we now are doing so many live streams, today's the 19th of January, and I think this may already be the 8th stream I've done, is because we're in the new studio, thanks to support from our audience. We have all new lighting. We have the best audio and lighting setup of any time that we've had. We no longer have loud people above us like at the last studio. So now we're really committing to content for 2019 and to growing that as much as possible. And it's going to depend on the support of people in the audience. So we've got a couple thousand people on the stream now. I think if just 1% of you, I mean, when I talk about we do the show for the 99%, and if 1% of our audience supports us, we are extraordinarily well funded. we've got 2,000 people watching right now. If just 1%, if 20, go to davidpakman.com/membership now and sign up, even for $3 a month, right? Or $20 for the entire year, which you can do with the coupon code 2019. We will be so extraordinarily well supported that deplatforming, attacks from the right, attempts to get me fired from Boston College, like we saw from a so-called activist last month, none of that stuff will matter. And that's why I talk about this is a 1% that I hope you will want to be a part of. And Mason Warren is becoming a part of that on Patreon. And Nicole Bonier is becoming a part of that on our website. And that's all absolutely fantastic stuff. So we're waiting for Trump, due to start at 4 o'clock. Has not yet started. I really hope that the audio works, because sometimes this weird thing happens where I try to pick up a YouTube stream, and even though the volume is up, we don't hear it. So I hope that we will hear that as soon as it starts. I will leave the volume up, and I think that we did have a couple of other super chats I could get to. We do. Ronihi 001696. David, I'm currently 19 and waiting to go into the military. I share a lot of your values and would love to run for office one day, but I don't really know where or how to get started. Any advice? I would start local. Because the barriers to entry will be much lower if you get involved, depending on where you live, in a city council or even on a committee for the city council. Or there are just so many ways that you can get involved at the small level to start building up your credentials and networking. I wish it weren't this way. It's not just about the best people, or it's not at all about the best people. It's often about the best connected people and people who can get others to help them in their races. And that would be my advice. GB with a $5 super chat saying, merely take my money. Javin with a $5 super chat. I make pretty political music, and I think it helps engage people. Sometimes I think it might be kind of like propaganda, though. What do you think? No, I mean, listen, fiction, commentary shows, documentaries, music, these are all mediums that can be used to express artistic ideas, to express political ideas. To say that it's kind of like propaganda, I don't think the medium does not determine whether something is propaganda. Let me say thank you to Cheryl McDonald, who is a new David Pakman Show member. Cheryl, thank you. I really appreciate your support. Let me also thank Brennan Skalitsky, who has signed up using this coupon code, which has led to more than 350 people becoming members on our website so far in 2019. Brennan Skalitsky also using that. Really, really appreciate that. We are waiting for Donald Trump here. We will open up the phone lines after. The more new members we get, the longer the phone lines will stay open. I don't know why Donald Trump is running late, now running 2 minutes late, maybe. Oh, here we go.
What do you say to that?
Just because the senator from Florida says it doesn't make it true.
Okay.
Keep in mind, the Democrats were at the table wanting to do comprehensive immigration reform last year. And for several years now, we believe in border security. That's been proven.
All right. So maybe we'll turn this down and just keep it on and monitor it for when Donald Trump is going to start. The latest news. Let's take a look at what the latest news is.
Donald J. Trump, and he has to own the shutdown.
Okay. No, this is so the commentary is not helping us. Increased infrastructure investments at ports of entry, Democratic demands, advanced technology to scan for drugs, more immigration judges and customs personnel. Yeah, that's from Nancy Pelosi, and basically what I've been saying would be fine for Democrats to concede on. It's the wall that is really the point of disagreement here. We're just waiting for Trump. I'll say thanks to Elizabeth Green Taylor, who has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. Thank you, Elizabeth. Blaine Nichols has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. This is really becoming a very, very inspiring stream. A lot of people signing up and getting on board here. I appreciate that. What should we do? I don't know. I'm hesitant to switch away from the stream because Trump could start at any minute. And if I turn the audio up and switch away.
The biggest concern for the administration right now is trying to shore up.
We're going to hear CBS commentary, which I don't know that we necessarily are looking to hear right now. I do have a couple of other super chats to briefly mention. Razamanaz says, thanks for doing this kind of shows. You need more than the previous 22 Norwegian kroner. Here's 55. Keep it up. Waiting to hear the lies from Trump. Sam says, I'm named after a prophet, so I'll call it. Trump's going to declare an emergency. If Donald Trump does declare an emergency, I believe that at that point, this goes beyond simply evaluating. Does the deal make sense for Democrats or doesn't it? And it becomes, this is an overt act of propaganda. This is a misuse of the national emergency mechanism. There is no national emergency. We have border crossings decreasing for the last decade or so. We have a net outflow of immigrants to Mexico rather than in from Mexico. We have the reality from study after study that immigrants who are immigrants in general and even undocumented immigrants commit crime at lower rates than American-born citizens, which makes absolutely perfect sense because if you know you're here illegally, you are going to want to stay under the radar and not even be someone that law enforcement is aware of. So you can't defend there being a national emergency, period. You simply can't. Okay, we're continuing to wait for Trump. I don't know what's going on. I do want to say thanks to some extraordinary new supporters. Karen Howard is a new member. Gary McClinton is a new member. And blowing the $20, $25 super chat out of the water for today, Joshua Carr is a new $100 per month patron. Joshua, thank you for your extraordinarily generous contribution. Thanks to all of these contributions, I will be opening up the phone lines after Trump's speech. And by the way, sometimes people say, David, why do you need people to donate to open the phone lines? It costs us money to run those phone lines. And what some people may not know is that if we have, we basically pay per person per minute. So if we have, as we often do, 50, 60, or 70 people on hold, if those people are on hold for 5 minutes, that's 300 minutes of time that we are paying for. So every time I open up the phone lines and take calls, we get a bill that we have to pay for, and it can be sort of expensive. Okay, someone is telling me that I can go to the White House channel, which will not have commentary. Let me try that. Let me see if I can get that set up. White House channel. The White House. Okay, let me go there. President Trump. Okay. Yeah, so we have that now. Good advice. Let me make sure that this is live. Live stream starting soon, and we can leave the sound up so that then we should... That's good, because then I can just leave the sound up, and then we will hear Trump when he comes on. So that'll be a good thing. So in that case, we can go back to Super Chats for now. Redskins fan 27. Let's have fun. Take a shot for every lie. I don't endorse binge drinking, and I can't do that. Robert Fancy Pants Motorcycle McGee with 100 Argentinian pesos. I love receiving donations in currency from my home country. Unfortunately, because of the exchange rate right now, I think that's about $2.50. It is a really, really tough economic situation right now in my birth country of Argentina. David Krasny says, go to the YouTube White House channel without commentary. Okay, we did do that. Timmy Lunsford, if Trump does declare a state of emergency, does government automatically open? Good question. Don't know the answer, but I would guess not. Marie Teresa Hughes with a £2 super chat. Thomas Higgins is a new YouTube member. And Alley Cat says, living paycheck to paycheck, but still subscribed to your show. Signed up a few days ago. Keep up the good work. You know, Allie, I so appreciate your support, but I do get a little bummed out when I see messages like that, because I've said so many times before, I believe that 5, 10, 15, 20, 30% of our audience can afford to support what we do financially, the distribution of the show to satellite television, radio, television stations, all of that stuff. And really, I do the show so that people who don't have money to throw around still have alternatives to whatever might be provided locally where they live. So I always say, if you can afford to support what we do without it being a big deal, $1 a month, $5 a month, whatever, please do it, because there are people who can't. And that's not who I'm trying to get to support what we do financially. And then I hear from someone like Allie, who is not only a member, but is also sending a super chat, who is living paycheck to paycheck. Just imagine if we did have the full support of everybody who could easily afford it, and then people like Allie maybe wouldn't feel inclined to do it because they'd say, you're so well funded, we don't need to do that. But Allie, thank you. I really appreciate that. Brian Fagans is a new member. Bob Sink says, when does it start, Father? Yeah, I don't know. We're just waiting. President Trump delivers his remarks starting soon.
Thousands of children are being exploited by ruthless coyotes and vicious cartels and gangs. 1 in 3 women is sexually assaulted on the dangerous journey north. In fact, many loving mothers give their young daughters birth control pills for the long journey up to the United States because they know they may be raped or sexually accosted or assaulted. Nearly 50 migrants a day are being referred for urgent medical care. Vast quantities of lethal narcotics are flooding through our border and into our communities, including meth, cocaine, heroin, and fentanyl. Drugs kill 78,000 Americans a year and cost our society in excess of $700 billion. Heroin alone kills 300 Americans a week, 90% of which comes across our southern border. We can stop heroin. Illegal immigration reduces wages and strains public services. The lack of border control provides a gateway, a very wide and open gateway for criminals and gang members to enter the United States,
Same speech as last
including
time.
the criminal aliens who murdered a brave California police officer only a day after Christmas. I've gotten to know and love angel moms, dads, and family who lost loved ones to people illegally in our country. I want this to end. It's got to end now. These are not talking points. These are the heartbreaking realities that are hurting innocent, precious human beings every single day on both sides of the border. As a candidate for president, I promised I would fix this crisis.
You promised Mexico would pay for
and
the
I intend to
wall.
keep that promise one way or the other. Our immigration system should be the subject of pride, not a source of shame, as it is all over the world. Our immigration system should be the envy of the world, not a symbol of disunity and dysfunction. The good news is these problems can all be solved, but only if we have the political courage to do what is just and what is right. Both sides in Washington must simply come together, listen to each other, put down their armor, build trust, reach across the aisle, and find solutions. It is time to reclaim our future from the extreme voices who fear compromise and demand open borders, which means drugs pouring in, human trafficking, and a lot of crime. That is why I am here today to break the logjam.
Here we go.
And provide Congress with a path forward to end the government shutdown and solve the crisis on the southern border.
I'm ready, Donnie boy.
If we are successful in this effort, we will then have the best chance in a very long time at real bipartisan immigration reform. And it won't stop here. It will keep going until we do it all. The proposal I will outline today is based on, first and foremost, on input from our border agents and Homeland Security professionals, and professionals they are. They know what they're doing. It is a compassionate response to the ongoing tragedy on our southern border. In recent weeks, we have met with large numbers of Democrat lawmakers to hear their ideas and suggestions. By incorporating the priorities of rank-and-file Democrats in our plan, we hope they will offer their enthusiastic support, and I think many will. This is a common sense compromise both parties should embrace. The radical left can never control our borders. I will never let it happen. Walls are not immoral. In fact, they are the opposite of immoral because they will save many lives and stop drugs from pouring into our country. Our plan includes the following: $800 million in urgent humanitarian assistance, $805 million for drug detection technology to help secure our ports of entry, an additional 2,750 border agents and law enforcement professionals, 75 new immigration judge teams to reduce the court backlog of, believe it or not, almost 900,000 cases. However, the whole concept of having lengthy trials for anyone who sets one foot in our country unlawfully must be changed by Congress. It is unsustainable. It is ridiculous. Few places in the world would even consider such an impossible nightmare. Our plan includes critical measures to protect migrant children from exploitation and abuse. This includes a new system to allow Central American minors to apply for asylum in their home countries and reform to promote family reunification for unaccompanied children, thousands of whom wind up on our border doorstep. To physically secure our border, the plan includes $5.7 billion for a strategic deployment of physical barriers or a wall. This is not a 2,000-mile concrete structure from sea to sea.
No, because it would cost $50 billion.
These are steel barriers in high-priority locations. Much of the border is already protected by natural barriers such as mountains and water. We already have many miles of barrier,
we don't need the full wall,
including 115 miles that we are currently building or under contract. It will be done quickly. Our request will add another 230 miles this year in the areas our border agents most urgently need. It will have an unbelievable impact. If we build a powerful and fully designed see-through steel barrier on our southern border, the crime rate and drug problem in our country would be quickly and greatly reduced. Some say it could be cut in half. Because these criminals, drug smugglers, gangs, and traffickers do not stop at our border. They permeate throughout our country, and they end up in some places where you'd least expect them. They go all over our country. A steel barrier will help us stop illegal immigration while safely directing commerce to our lawful ports of entry. Many of these security ideas have been proposed by Democrats themselves, and all of them have been supported by Democrats in the past, including a physical barrier wall or fence. Furthermore, in order to build the trust and goodwill necessary to begin real immigration reform, there are two more elements to my plan. Number one is 3 years of legislative relief for 700,000 DACA recipients brought here unlawfully by their parents at a young age.
3 years. How convenient, right?
This extension will give them access to work permits, Social Security numbers, and protection from deportation, most importantly. Secondly, our proposal provides a 3-year extension of temporary protected status, or TPS. This means that 300,000 immigrants whose protected status is facing expiration will now have 3 more years of certainty so that Congress can work on a larger immigration deal, which everybody wants, Republicans and Democrats. And our farmers and vineyards won't be affected because lawful and regulated entry into our country will be easy and consistent. That is our plan. Border security, DACA, TPS, and many other things. Straightforward, fair, reasonable, and common sense with lots of compromise. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has pledged to bring this bill to a vote this week in the United States Senate. Our proposal is not intended to solve all of our immigration challenges. This plan solves the immediate crisis, and it is a horrible crisis. It is a humanitarian crisis like we rarely see in our country.
Lie.
And it provides humanitarian relief, delivers real border security, and immediately reopens our federal government. If we are successful in this effort, then we can start the border project of remaking our immigration system for the 21st century. Once the government is open and we have made a down payment on border security and immigration reform starts to happen, I plan to convene weekly bipartisan meetings at the White House so we can do a finished product, a great product, a product that we can all be proud of having to do with that elusive immigration problem. Whatever we do, I can promise you this.
Yes.
I will never forget that my first duty and ultimate loyalty is to you, the American people. Any
He's never going to
reforms
forget his first
we make
duty. That's nice to know.
Our immigration system will be designed to improve your lives, make your community safer, and make our nation more prosperous and secure for generations to come. Thank you, and God bless America. Thank you.
Oh, man. This is just insane.
He supported a path to citizenship last year.
Okay, people, I guess, sort of trying to ask him questions there. Okay. Where to even begin? Okay, let's so let's see if we can take this piece by piece. The first part of this speech was the same speech he gave recently in the Oval Office, right? Appeals to emotion, once again talking about drugs from Mexico, but most of those are coming through the ports of entry. A wall wouldn't do anything about that. He again cited this meme about how wages are being pushed down by undocumented immigrants. The people who are coming here to work aren't the actual source of what the wages are. It's the corporations that are hiring them, which go unpunished. And Trump's companies are some of those, right? So until there was not even a mention in this entire abortion of a speech about what we would do with the companies hiring undocumented immigrants. That's number one. That's got to be the number one priority, right? Then he talked about how he is going to keep his promises on this issue. The promise was Mexico would pay for a full wall across the entire U.S.-Mexico border. Okay, don't be tricked into forgetting that that was the original promise. So then we get to the actual proposal, okay? The proposal is Trump wants $800 million in humanitarian aid. What that means, we don't know. Trump wants $805 million for drug detection, which again, the drug detection is not really, I mean, okay, if you're going to concede that the issue is at the ports of entry, then we might have something to talk about. But he's talking about drug detection as if it's something coming over the border in areas that the wall would address. He wants an additional 2,750 border agents and law enforcement and 75 new judge teams. I thought that they were for small government. Okay, this is a massive expansion of government. You're 75 judge teams, more courts, almost 3,000 new law enforcement professionals. So his solution, I guess, is a massive government expansion, which Republicans claim to be against. And then, of course, he mentions $5.7 billion for the wall, for a steel barrier. And now, amazingly, he's playing coy, saying, listen, we don't even need a U.S.-Mexico full border wall. Did anybody notice how the goalposts were moved and how he backtracked on this? We were told a full wall that Mexico would pay for. Now he's only talking about us paying for it. And he's saying that there's natural barriers, there's rivers, there's mountains, there's all sorts of stuff. That's the argument that we've been making all this time. And now he's saying, I just want 5.7 billion for, I guess it's 230 miles. And that he believes this plan will cut drugs and people coming in illegally by 50%. Literally impossible. Okay. There's no way a wall could stop 50% of drugs and 50% of people from coming in when 2/3 of the people aren't even crossing the physical barrier, and the overwhelming majority of the drugs aren't crossing anywhere that we would be putting the wall. They're crossing through ports of entry. It's an absolute and total delusion. Now, what is he willing to compromise on? He is willing to, number one, do 3 years of extended protection for DACA recipients, which would get us to 2022, and 3 years of temporary protected status extension. This is what doesn't make sense about this proposal. On the one hand, Donald Trump's language is, it would be bad if we deported these kids. It would be bad if people with TPS or DACA status aren't able to get driver's licenses, work permits, whatever. Well, if it's bad and you don't want that to happen, why is it something you're framing as a concession to the other side, right? Like, if Trump agrees we don't want to deport DACA recipients, I wouldn't do that anyway. Well, then why are you saying that's what you're willing to give the other side? It makes absolutely no sense. It's an absolutely ridiculous plan. He claims McConnell will bring it to a vote in the Senate. I'm not sure exactly what is going to go on in the House. So an absolutely ridiculous proposal based on appeals to emotion, straight up lies, and all sorts of distractions and distortions. So let me open up the phone lines, because we've had so many people sign up for membership, and I'll thank some of those people momentarily. I am opening the phone lines now at 617-830-4750. People can start calling in now, and I will take a bunch of phone calls before I have to get to the gym. I do want to thank Charles Strader and Michelle Hall, and Michael Richardson, as well as Justin Bain and Daryl Phillips. Wow. Just a lot of really great, inspiring support. Thanks to everybody who has signed up to support, including our top supporter of the stream, Joshua Carr, who has made $100 a month pledge on Patreon. The coupon codes still work. Patreon.com/David Pakman Show, www.joinpakman.com. Let's kick off the stream. I know I didn't get to you last time, Dante from Florida. Dante, you know sometimes you call in and filibuster, though, so I'm going to put you on, but I hope that you're ready to go with the topic or question.
David, I'm ready to go. It's a good one.
Cool.
All right, so it's a quick question. Do you think that the mainstream media and corporate Democrats have blown the Trump-Russia story out of proportion for their own political purposes, especially seeing how they don't pay anywhere near as much attention to when Trump and other U.S. presidents have way worse and more nefarious connections to other foreign governments?
What would be an example of Trump's more concerning than Russia connections?
Like Donald Trump's business connections with Saudi Arabia, and then actually assisting them in a genocide in Yemen, the worst humanitarian crisis on the planet right now.
We have been talking. So I disagree with your premise, Dante. I mean, I have been talking about that a lot. However, so I think that there is this talking point that's being spread, which is the real collusion was with Saudi Arabia. No, I mean, it's totally immoral that we continue to sell Saudi Arabia all the weapons that we sell. It's completely immoral that we continue to maintain this relationship given what they're doing in Yemen. I completely am on board with you, but there is no concerted effort that we have seen to hide meetings with Saudi Arabia, that Saudi Arabia was providing opposition research in violation potentially of the emoluments clause. So I've been covering what you're talking about, and I just don't think it's nearly of the same scope as what we've seen with Russia.
Well, I'm not saying that it's you specifically. My question was about the mainstream media, because it seems that they have an motive, because, like I mentioned, they don't pay anywhere near as much attention when Trump has these other and worse.
So Dante, you're right that the media corporate media has never paid enough attention to our immoral relationship with Saudi Arabia. And I'm completely on board with you with that critique. I just maintain that it's separate from what's going on with Russia.
But also, you said that you think that the Russia, yeah, I honestly agree that Trump has gone way more out of his way to cover up the Russia story, but I think that's because there's more focus being paid to that. But the Saudi Arabia situation is just, at face value, objectively, it's just way worse because it's a literal genocide, and he's profiting from it, and he is refusing to criticize them, even when they murdered a U.S. journalist. And he's doing it because he's taking money from this government. So I think that's honestly way worse than anything that could possibly come out of what Mueller or any of these other many investigations are.
No, they're just two different things. I mean, one is a systemic issue related to American foreign policy with Saudi Arabia, which is an atrocious embarrassment. The other is specific and concerted, possibly criminal actions for the purposes of winning a particular election. So, okay, point made, Dante. I think we just maybe don't agree on this. Let's go to our next caller from the 401 area code. I think 401 is that's Providence, Rhode Island, right?
Yeah. Is this me?
That is you.
Hey, David. This is David. And I am indeed in Providence, Rhode Island.
Very good.
Been a long-time supporter, about a year and a half now.
Thank
so
you.
Huge fan. You're welcome. My question is regarding impeachment. Do you think that the House should move to impeach Trump? If so, do you think now is the right time? Or when would be the right time, and what would it be for?
Well, okay, so you're kind of getting
go
at the issue, which is now is not the right time because we don't yet know exactly what it would be for. Once we know what it would be for, if there are valid reasons to move for impeachment, that would be the right time to do it. So when you say, do I support impeachment? Right now, I don't, because we don't have the full story yet. First, we need to know what is the full story of what went down. Only when we know that can we evaluate it. And absolutely, if what should happen is impeachment, then I believe that impeachment proceedings should start. But to say now that impeachment proceedings should start, and the fact that you're asking for what means now is not yet the right time. Once it's clear what it would be for, that would be the time to start.
Sure. Well, my case for moving for impeachment now would be that we already have evidence on the violations of the emoluments clause and campaign finance violations as well. So
I agree with you. The only issue, so here's why I would disagree that now would be the time. We may get evidence of way, way more serious crimes than that. And if so, you don't want to now let the cat out of the bag with impeachment on those charges, which may not actually get the Senate to say, even if proven, this means we should remove Trump, when there may be much worse stuff coming in the future.
Yeah, fair enough. That makes complete sense. I only worry that Mueller's report drops and there's really nothing incriminating Donald Trump there. And then there's the talking point of, oh, well, they were waiting for something to drop for impeachment to come around, but there's nothing here. So now no reason to impeach. And that'll be the argument.
Well, we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. But I don't think you can do, this preemptive impeachment stuff, I think is a mistake. Thank you. I appreciate the call, David. Great to hear from you. Let's go to our caller from the 513 area code. Caller from 513. What's going on?
Hey, is this me?
That's you.
Hey, David, this is Vivek. This is my second time calling in, I think.
Oh, good.
Yes, I wanted to talk about the address that Trump just gave today.
Please.
He's not building a wall. He's just building a strategic deployment of physical barriers. Come on, David.
Right. So you picked up on the
Right.
semantic games as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought I heard him mention something about hiring more federal judges. Is that correct?
Well, he said he wants to do 75 judge teams, additional judge teams. Yeah.
Do you think something like that might actually have a positive effect? Like I remember watching a John Oliver segment a while ago where I talked about how many undocumented migrants go unrepresented, including children and things like that. I think this might actually be.
Yeah. I'm not against that. I'm
change.
actually for more of those judge teams. The problem is that it doesn't have any place in a negotiation about a wall. I mean, again, what Trump is. So think about how insane this is. On the one hand, Trump and his party want to shrink government. They want small government. And part of what they propose, in addition to getting billions of dollars for a wall, is 75 additional judge teams and 2,750 additional border agents and law enforcement professionals, which, number one, has no bearing here or there on the wall, but is also a huge expansion of government. I happen to agree that we need more of those judge teams, but I don't agree that they need to come as part of a deal to build a wall.
Yeah, so could I ask a really quick follow-up question?
Yeah.
Related. So we once again heard Trump fear-mongering about how illegals are coming in and raping and murdering people.
Yeah.
Can we just say at this point that all Trump supporters are racist?
No, we can't. We can't say that. But we could say that an increasing majority of them are indifferent to the fact that Donald Trump is dog whistling to racists, right? So you could be not racist yourself and say, I just really like what he did for my taxes, but I'm indifferent to the fact that he's dog whistling in kind of known racist ways.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you. Appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Let's go to the 202 area code. Caller from 202, go ahead.
Hello, am I live?
You are live right now.
Okay, can the Democrats force Trump to get a psychiatric assessment and release it to the public? Or would the president have to consent to that? Or would Republicans have to sign on to it, like McConnell and, well, Paul Ryan's not there anymore, because he's definitely a sociopath and he is likely demented?
I don't know. So if you're asking me legally, I don't know what mechanism would be required to force the president to undergo a psychiatric evaluation, but it's just not going to happen unless something extraordinarily outrageous, like if Trump, if he starts yelling at a reporter during an interview about aliens, right? I mean, it would have to be so over the top for any mechanism to even get bipartisan support that I don't even think it's worth thinking about.
Okay, and follow-up question. What would the GOP do if impeachment and conviction happened in the middle of the campaign for 2020? Same procedure if the candidate died? Like, let's just say in, August, Trump was convicted and he was removed from office, and the GOP is like, okay, we have to go all Pence now. Do you think that would have any impact on the campaign?
Yes,
it would.
I think that if Donald Trump were impeached and removed from office 3 months before the election, I think that would have a big impact for sure. And I think the default would be Pence. But that, I mean, it's such an out there scenario right now that, if something like that happens, it'll be up to Republicans to figure out what to do. It's very difficult to predict. But yeah, that would have a major impact on the 2020 election.
Yeah, I could see that happening. All right, thanks. Have a great day.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate the call. We're taking calls at 617-830-4750. Let's go to our caller from the 419 area code. 419, what's going on?
Hi, David. Tom from Ohio. I don't anticipate the Democrats taking this deal. And I think if they reject it, it's going to get really ugly. And I just don't see a path forward. But my question is, if you think Trump declaring a national emergency is off the table at this point.
I don't know if it's off the table, but I think that he's going to get, so if Democrats do reject this deal, Trump may have more political fodder short of declaring a national emergency by saying, look, I'm giving them a bunch of stuff that they want and they're still not doing it. And of course, as we analyzed the deal before, it's a deal that in a lot of ways makes no sense. But I don't know. I think that actually this speech and the possibility of this new deal delays the declaration of a national emergency, if anything.
Okay. And, I mean, you may have briefly talked about it. I mean, do you have a rough idea of if the Democrats would take this deal, or are you unsure at this point?
I read one report that says Democrats are not going to take this deal as is. But it's been 15 minutes, so we'll have to wait and see a little bit.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the call. Let's go to our caller from the 908 area code. We are taking phone calls because we got a bunch of new members and patrons on our website. Thanks to everybody for their support. I have a few more people to thank momentarily. But in the meantime, 908, you're on the air. Or maybe you're not. 908, are we muted maybe?
Hello?
Yeah, there you are.
Hello? Sorry, I think you were muted. Oh, hi. I'm Brian from New Jersey.
What's going on?
I had a cool question regarding the speech, but I just wanted to know, who do you think is the most problematic Democratic candidate that announced like, the past few weeks.
Oh, so you're saying this is not related to Trump's speech. You're saying who's the most problematic?
Candidate, yeah. I mean, I could ask a question about the speech if I do have a question, but this one I really wanted to ask you.
I don't see any of the candidates so far as problematic. I think that the person who is most misunderstood as to who they are is probably Tulsi Gabbard. You've got some people on the sort of Leninist left who are kind of rallying behind her without really understanding that she's actually more to the right in some ways. And so I think that the one that's confusing people the most is Tulsi Gabbard, but I don't see any problematic candidates right now.
Would you say like Gillibrand meeting with the Wall Street executives maybe hurts her a lot more, or no?
No, honestly, it probably doesn't hurt her too much. No, I've not done a full deep dive on Kristen Gillibrand. Honestly, I think she just has absolutely no shot whatsoever. So I admit I have not done as much research into her as I should, but I will soon. And particularly when we get one or two more candidates, we'll kind of do an updated full analysis of everybody who's in so far. But no, I don't think that having met with Wall Street executives is going to be her undoing. I think it'll be the fact that she's just never going to get her campaign going to begin with.
Okay. Well, okay, thank you. Appreciate it. I joined about 2 weeks ago with the 2019 code, so keep up what you're doing.
How great is membership?
Honestly, great.
Would you say membership is better than Netflix?
It's a hard statement to make, but I have to agree. I really have to agree.
No question about it.
Progressive Netflix.
Yes,
yeah, of course.
No question about it.
Thank you for taking the question.
Thank you. Appreciate the call. And on that note, I do want to thank Wayne Lopst, who has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. Keep those memberships coming. That coupon code 2019, which gives you a yearly membership for only $20.19, it's not going to be around forever. Okay. Jorge Luis has sent a 200 Mexican peso super chat. Aside from the deal, do you think it's likely Mueller finds no collusion and nothing happens? Yeah, I mean, always the most likely scenario was going to be that there will be no consequences for what Donald Trump did, for sure. Richard Hunter mentioned that the deal should be a bit of wall in exchange for a pathway to citizenship. I agree, and I actually mentioned that before. Michael Cohen will be the John Dean of the Trump administration, says Harvey Willing. Sean Keogh says, wow, Clinic of Lies, no deal. Extending DACA concedes that we should help some groups, but why not all? Also, Nomi Konst is running for New York City public advocate, 226, no corporate money. What are your thoughts? Yeah, she called me about her race the other day. I didn't know much about that position, but I'm looking into it. Joshua Carr, The David Pakman Show, easily one of the best political shows on the net. Glad and proud to be a new Patreon supporter. Greetings from the UK, but soon to be U.S. resident. Yes, thank you, Joshua. Between the $100 Patreon pledge and the $10 super chat, Joshua is in for about 113 USD today. Thank you. Didn't Senator Graham suggest this a while ago? This so-called deal is garbage. Love your content, David. Wish I could donate more. Trump is a master of controlling the narrative, media, false equivalencies, and fear tactics. Whose man is this? Get this worm. TF out of here. Pa fuera. Okay. It's getting a little crazy in the super chats. Good morning, David. Thanks for all your reporting. All right, let me go back to the phones. Let's go to the 509 area code. Caller from 509. You're on the air.
Hi, David. Thanks for taking my call.
Pleasure.
So as I was watching that, little Trump address,
yep,
a few things came to my mind. One is, I don't think the Democrats should accept this, deal or offer from Trump.
I agree.
Mostly because if they do, not only Trump gets his bragging rights about his wall, but I think he'll also be seen as, the undecided voters. He'll be seen as like a great negotiator, able to end the government shutdown, bring Democrats to the table, and he gets his wall. So I would say Democrats shouldn't accept the deal.
I agree with your conclusion that Dems shouldn't accept it, although I disagree that I think that if there was a really good deal on the table, even if it would sort of make Trump seem to have succeeded, that's not a reason. I mean, it's sort of playing, it's bad politics. It's the worst of politics to reject a good deal merely because you don't want the other side to be able to sort of claim victory. The problem is that Trump wouldn't be a good negotiator by virtue of this deal, because remember, he said we're going to build a full border wall and Mexico will pay for it. Now, during this speech, he said we don't actually really need that full border wall because we've got natural barriers in many places like rivers and others. And I'm just looking to build 230 miles for $5.7 billion. So even if Trump succeeds, it would be incorrect to say that he has made any big victory, because he's giving up on so much of what he promised he was going to accomplish.
Oh, yeah, I agree completely. I don't think he is a great negotiator at all, especially if Democrats do accept this deal. But I think that to, I don't know, an undecided public, he might be seen as
Agree.
that. In 2020, I think he would hammer that home nonstop. I got my wall. I ended the government shutdown. And,
The government
that
shutdown
might
that
get
he
reelected.
made, he started and ended the government shutdown.
Exactly.
I totally agree with you. He will frame it that way, and that is a political risk. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Oh, great. Yeah, thank you, David. Keep up the good work.
No problem. Alkshi says via Super Chat, if Trump's deal is so fair and full of compromise, couldn't he open government and then offer it? Isn't it obvious he's just using workers as hostages? Yes, he is. No question about it. Let's go to the 804 area code. Caller from 804. Go ahead.
Is that me?
That is you.
Okay. I just wanted to comment. First of all, it's hilarious that it seems as though Trump is continuously struggling to read.
Yeah, I know. It's so bad.
And you can clearly tell when he starts ad-libbing, because he'll like make embellishments to his speech. He'll be like, "Oh well, we need a barrier, a really, really, really big barrier." It's not in the teleprompter, but
that's exactly right. So the way he does it is he'll be very robotic, and then he'll ad-lib with just hyperbole. So he'll say, "We are dealing with a crisis on the southern border." It's a big crisis, folks. Really big crisis. Yeah. And you can tell that that's the ad lib, right? Which is just talking about how significantly that last thing he sputtered was.
It's actually really beautiful. I love watching him do that. But my question is, the right continuously gaslights, and they make up issues just to sort of try to get. They try to get voters by making up issues that they don't actually care about. Like this wall, it started out as a huge wall across the southern border. Now it's just barriers, and they clearly don't want this. They don't want the wall. They don't actually need the wall. It's just a political move. It's just a power move. So what can the left do? What do you think the left could do to sort of use this in their constant changing perspective on their own issues? What do you think the left could do to take that and make that into their own political power move?
I don't know, because the left is terrible at what you're describing. So I don't know how they could do it. And, the truth is that double standards, hypocrisy, and shifting goalposts have become so part and parcel, not only of politics in general, but more acutely of this administration, that I don't know exactly how you take the obvious failures of this administration, which they try to change expectations around in order to then present them as wins. Like, okay, Mexico was going to pay for a 2,000-mile wall. Now Trump would consider it a victory to get $5 billion of your money for a 200-mile wall, right? So then that now becomes the standard of victory. I don't know how to turn that against them. It just doesn't seem to stick.
Yeah, I don't think that the current left is prepared to do that sort of thing. I don't think that they're ready to play politics the way that Trump plays politics. Because, as we know, he's not at all uncomfortable with doing illegal things to play his politics and to make his power moves. But the Democrats, I don't think they're ready at all for him. So
I agree, and it's going to be a problem in 2020. Thank you for the call. I really appreciate it. All right, I got to get to the gym before it gets too late. Great for everybody to have joined me today. I am going to be wrapping up at this point. A couple extra thank yous. Ebru is a new $5 a month patron, and we have had so many great super chats and all sorts of great stuff, and it's just been an incredible stream. I would call it the best stream ever, folks. I would actually say that. Dexter Lab says, special counsel refuting BuzzFeed for time do mean no Coley. No idea what that means, but if you're talking about the Mueller statement on the BuzzFeed story, talked about that at the top of the stream. Thanks for joining me. I will stream again soon.